The incredible similarities of pyramids worldwide, from Egypt to Mexico and Cambodia, and the astonishing ancient maps accurately depicting Antarctica thousands of years before its official discovery, hint at the existence of an advanced ancient civilization. Perhaps it was they who left us mysterious structures that even modern scientists cannot fully explain, challenging our understanding of human history. Step pyramids were a favored architectural form of these ancient builders. This suggests that they were created by the same advanced civilization. However, these temples are located in completely different parts of the world. Chichen Itza is in Mexico, the tomb of Pharaoh Djoser is in Egypt, and the Kokher Sanctuary is in Cambodia. Textbooks claim that these step pyramids were erected by different primitive societies independently of each other. The strangest thing is that these almost identical structures are separated by hundreds, if not thousands of years, and half a world apart. If we assume that they were indeed created by representatives of the same ancient advanced civilization, which could easily cross oceans, this already indicates a level of development close to our own century. Scientists have discovered too many suspicious structures, the appearance of which they cannot fully explain or even attempt to. In Ohio, USA, there is a strange man-made mound known as the Great Serpent Mound, which is 440 meters long. Experts still debate its age. The generally accepted version claims that the Serpent Mound was built by the Ford ancient culture around 1000 AD, supposedly because there was no one else to build it. However, this version has not convinced everyone. British journalist Graham Hancock doubted these conclusions and decided to conduct an alternative study. Not far from the Serpent Mound, he found an entire burial complex belonging to the Adena culture, which is 1,000 years older than Fort Ancient. But the most incredible thing is that the Serpent Mound probably stands on an ancient meteorite crater. Samples showed that this collision occurred no earlier than 125,000 years ago, leaving behind an extremely strong magnetic anomaly. Compasses in this area go haywire, and surveyors were able to accurately determine the cardinal directions at the Serpent Mound only 100 years ago. At that time, ancient people did it several thousand years earlier without special equipment. They even did more. The head of the serpent precisely points to the sunset during the summer solstice, and the bends of the mound serve as an astronomical calendar. If we adhere to the generally accepted version, all this was built by people capable only of making huts and sharpening spears for hunting. But what if this primitive society simply occupied a much older complex built by someone else much earlier? In another corner of the world, we found traces of an unknown ancient civilization with extraordinary architectural abilities. Scientists initially did not pay much attention to the half-ruined temple complex of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Early studies showed that it was built around 2,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe would have remained interesting only to specialists if at least 16 older underground halls had not been discovered during the final excavations. Thus, the total area of the complex can reach about 20 square kilometers. And this is just what we have managed to find. This is almost half of Manhattan. Expertise showed that the oldest halls date back to the 10th millennium BC, long before the emergence of modern civilizations. Scientists believe that hunter-gatherers flourished on Earth. What could have prompted them to suddenly join forces to build the monumental Göbekli Tepe? Science cannot offer a clear explanation. Our ancestors did not receive group mailings informing them of a new era of humanity. Professor Giulio Magli of the Milan Polytechnic University discovered that Göbekli Tepe is not a temple, but a real observatory, as the lines between the central monoliths of the complex exactly match the movements of Sirius during the summer solstice. The ancient people who built this complex were well versed not only in construction, but also in astronomy. What could have prevented them from traveling around the world? The version of an advanced ancient civilization actively exploring the globe is confirmed by ancient maps. For example, on the map of 1513, we can see Antarctica. But how did it get there if our navigators discovered the fifth continent only 300 years ago? The ancient map holds other mysteries, such as the coastline of Antarctica, today hidden under ice, depicted on it accurately, as if someone knew what the continent looked like in the distant past. Modern science managed to study such details only in the 1960s. But who managed to get ahead of us by hundreds, if not thousands of years? Perhaps the builders of the huge pyramid on the surface of Antarctica. This is a fragment of a satellite image of the Ellsworth Mountains taken in 2016. Could this be the remains of an Antarctic metropolis, of an ancient advanced civilization? Sailor Piri Reis claimed that he copied his map from a very ancient document kept in the already destroyed Library of Alexandria. And this is right next to the Great Pyramids of Giza. What if the ancient builders left detailed instructions for their descendants, which were eventually lost? But there's more. The outlines of poorly studied South America in the 15th century on the same map are also surprisingly accurate. The continent itself is marked with mountains, rivers, and some lakes, indicating that ancient explorers not only saw this part of the land from the sea, but also penetrated inland. The Piri Reis map also has inconsistencies even with our modern knowledge of the world. South America is connected to Antarctica by a small isthmus. But wait, maybe tens of thousands of years ago, in the times of an unknown ancient civilization, these continents were indeed connected. After all, many pyramids have been found on the territory of South America, and we continue to find new ones. Recently, researchers were scanning the area around a village in southern Bolivia using LiDAR scanners and unexpectedly discovered a complex network of canals and the remains of several stone pyramids under the jungle canopy. Archaeologists found that they belonged to the previously unknown Casarabe culture, which is 1,000 years older than the Aztecs and Incas. It seems as if someone specifically taught the indigenous people of America complex architectural skills, which were then adopted by later peoples. However, geologists categorically refute the theory of pyramids in Antarctica. In their opinion, this is the result of not human activity, but very specific erosion, as in the case of the famous alpine mountain Matterhorn. But debunking one pyramid does not negate the fact that there are many ancient man-made monuments scattered around the world, all of which are suspiciously similar. The ruins of the Gunung Padang temple on one of the Indonesian islands no longer have such an impressive appearance today. But in ancient times it was a pyramid, like the Great Serpent Mound. This structure also stands on the site of an ancient crater. Scientists believe that the complex should be no more than 9,000 years old. However, recent radiocarbon analysis showed that the lower limit of Gunung Padang's dating could push its construction back another 20,000 years into the past. Scientists claim that at that time the Earth was experiencing the harshest phase of the last ice age, and people were clearly not in the mood to create huge memorial complexes. But are we forgetting something important as we try to fit Gunung Padang into the history we are familiar with? Advanced civilizations could have continued to travel the world, building their pyramids. After all, they were found not only in Egypt but in all corners of the world. For example, the Baxi Chamkrong Temple in Cambodia. And here's the sanctuary in Monte de Codi in central Italy. All these structures have incredibly similar features. The stones of buildings in Argolis, Greece, are fitted so tightly that not even a human hair can fit into the joints, all without the use of mortar. Near the city of Cusco in Peru, walls with similar masonry were found, despite the fact that more than 11,000 km in the Atlantic Ocean lie between these regions. Moreover, the pattern repeats itself with pyramidal monuments in Egypt, Japan, and even Easter Island. The sculptures in these complexes also echo one another. Compare artifacts from Bolivia, Turkey, Indonesia, and Easter Island itself, which was unreachable without a developed fleet. It's probably no coincidence that the ancient Aztecs had a legend about the god Quetzalcoatl, who supposedly arrived by sea in a boat without oars. According to the legends, he taught people incredible skills. The art of building pyramids and other architectural achievements of ancient civilizations leaves many mysteries. One of the fascinating coincidences is that images of people passing on their knowledge appear not only in Aztec culture. The ancient inhabitants of Mexico depicted a person handing over divine knowledge, which looks like a modern handbag. Similar scenes of knowledge transfer by ancient sages can be found all over the planet, in Göbekli Tepe, on the walls of surviving Assyrian temples, and even in Sumerian art. If we assume that representatives of an ancient civilization could cross oceans and impart their knowledge to primitive people, it would mean that their level of development was close to ours. Could such a society disappear almost without a trace? Recently, in an article published in Scientific Reports, American scientists released the results of years of excavations near the town of Tal El Hammam in Jordan. They discovered a 1.5-meter layer of soil composed of burned organic material, ash, and bone fragments. It turned out to be the site of an ancient cosmic disaster that occurred around 1650 BCE, when the settlement was instantly destroyed by a meteorite explosion. Scientists found only biblical legends about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah by fire from the sky, confirming that sometimes myths are not entirely fiction. However, such a cataclysm would not be enough to wipe out an entire civilization. There is an ancient legend about a global catastrophe, a worldwide flood, found not only in the Bible, but also in the legends of Native Americans and even Australian Aborigines. Ancient Finns associated this event with the end of the world. If the flood was truly global, even an advanced ancient civilization would struggle to survive. Some evidence suggests that around 13,000–15,000 years ago, Earth experienced a cataclysmic period with raging storms. Soil samples from that period contain many deposits of nanodiamonds, microscopic crystals formed from powerful comet or asteroid impacts. But where is the crater if the flood was caused by an impact? Richard Firestone, an analytical chemist at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California, found that most nanodiamonds are in soil samples from North America. At that time, the entire territory of modern Canada was covered by a thick layer of ice. And if a comet hit there, the instant melting of the ice could create a destructive wave leading to the worldwide flood. But it's not certain that it would immediately wipe out an entire civilization. A small number of survivors could have spread across different parts of the planet, passing on fragments of their knowledge to other more primitive civilizations. Amazingly, those who survived this hidden apocalypse could have built Göbekli Tepe when the rest of humanity still lived by hunting and gathering. They already had the necessary technologies and knew how to cooperate well. If people devastated by a disaster could build such a monumental structure, what were they capable of at their peak? If they had sufficiently advanced technologies, why haven't we found them? We consider ourselves an advanced civilization that will leave a significant mark on the planet's history. But in reality, we may be overestimating ourselves. If our civilization disappeared right now, in 200 years, there would be no traces of cultivated plants left on Earth. In 10,000 years, cities would almost completely disappear, leaving only large stones scattered chaotically around the globe. We found something similar underwater near Bimini, close to the Bahamas. This structure is called the Bimini Road, a 700-meter-long path made of neatly laid limestone blocks. Debates about the origin of this structure continue, and scientists have yet to reach a consensus. Perhaps in the past, before the Great Flood, the ocean level was significantly lower, and ancient civilizations could cross the planet on such highways. This seems logical, considering that from Antarctica, which was not covered in ice then, it would be easy to reach most other continents, as shown on ancient maps. Perhaps we will someday discover the ruins of ancient megacities under the ice. But if such an advanced civilization existed, the question arises, why haven't we found its traces? For example, glass and plastic from our buildings and machines would take about 15 million years to decompose, so similar remnants should have been preserved. But what if ancient people either didn't find oil or deemed it unsuitable for use, or foresaw the harmful effects of synthetic materials and consciously avoided their production? In that case, their civilization could have been entirely organic and left no traces. Development levels are determined not only by technologies, but also by social structures. If ancient sages didn't use plastic, they might have found alternative ways to organize their civilization. Our perceptions of the primitiveness of ancient societies may be mistaken. American anthropologist David Graeber studied various alternative structures of ancient societies and concluded that even in the early stages of our civilization, tribes with constant cyclical role changes could have existed, slaves becoming leaders and vice versa, exchanging not only personal belongings but also names. In his book The Dawn of Everything, Graeber describes primitive tribes that deliberately avoided any hierarchies, which could have helped them develop faster, even based on organic technologies. The problem may not lie in the invisibility of a highly developed ancient civilization, but in our ability to recognize it through our biases. Perhaps one day we will rise above them and find all the fragments of an unknown civilization that left us only hints of its existence. Ancient people might not have been as different from us as we think. The Indian epic Mahabharata describes an explosion as bright as 10,000 suns, followed by a pillar of smoke and fire, with birds falling dead to the ground. Doesn't that sound like a nuclear explosion? It's hard even to imagine what that looked like. What do you think? Did an advanced ancient civilization really exist?